that's a bite. I think last week's session was a pretty thorough way of testing these alarms, but I ran out of time to talk through them. So in this video, I'm going to tell you 5 key things you need to know about the new Trakker DB7R alarms. Before we jump into the 5 key things, please just take a few seconds to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. It really does help the channel grow, and make sure you don't miss any future uploads like this one. We'll start off with the basics. When you get these alarms out of their box, you'll see that they each come with their dedicated rubberized hard case, which keeps them nice and protected when they're not in use between sessions and carrying around to and from your swim. Now, to turn them on is nice and simple, but to start with you need to put a battery in, and you'll be pleased to know they don't take any of those really annoying little stubby squash AA's or the little circular ones. These take a nice and readily available 9-volt square battery, so easy to get and last a very long time. On the left-hand side of the alarm is an on-off button. Press briefly and then press and hold, and that turns the alarm on. And likewise, to turn it off, quick press and then press and hold again, and that will turn the alarm head back off. Now, as you would have noticed, that made absolutely no noise. That's because I've got the volume set to off at the moment, or in its mute setting. So if I turn it back on, we'll then move over to the dials. So the first one of which being the volume. At the moment, making no noise whatsoever, but the LEDs are flashing for me. So if I wanted to have these on mute and then maybe go just to the receiver, or have the receiver just on mute as well and vibrate, completely up to you. So you can be as quiet as you like, or alternatively, turn the volume up. So of course that's on its lowest. And if I go all the way up to the highest, nice and loud. Now, you would have heard that the tone there is set fairly low, and there's lots of different tone settings for you on here. So at the moment that's on its lowest. And if I go my way through, there's quite a lot to choose from. So whether you like a really high pitched one, which some older people on the lake may not be able to hear because that is pretty high pitch, or whether you like one of more old school sounding lower tones, that's completely up to you. And lastly, we got the sensitivity dial, which at the moment, as you can see, it's barely any movement of line before I'm getting indication on there. If I scroll that all the way down to the last one, as you'd expect, no indication from quite a lot of movement. But I'll get onto this a bit more in a second, because it's not just really desensitized on its lowest mode. It's got something a little bit special in there that makes sure that you don't get false indications. When you do get a bite, you're notified just the same as you would if you had it on higher sensitivity. So now the alarms are on and they're in use. So a few things to note is that on a forward take, you'll get the lights flashing, and then once it stops taking forward, those lights will stay solid. And if you get a drop back, you'll get a flashing LED on the drop back, and it will remain flashing if you've had that. So if you've had a bite in the night and you haven't seen what exactly has gone on, you'll be shown by the LED going forward or going back exactly what happened. But if I put the volume on, there's also a difference there, because if I pull forwards, single tone going forwards, but on the way back, you've got alternating tones, so it tells you whether you're getting a forward take, both audibly and visibly. Now, if we can move on to the latching LEDs at the moment, or the LEDs that will be flashing when you've had a drop back or stay solid when you've had a forward take, you can actually change the color of them. So a double press of the power button quickly opens up a mode to change through them. So you've got red, green, yellow, blue, sort of a white and a magenta, purple, and then back to red. And then once you leave it on that color, whatever color you choose, once that light goes off, it's then saved as that color. And lastly, that power on and off button, one quick press. You won't be able to see it right now because we're strangely having a heat wave in the start of September after having a crappy summer, but I can assure you that has now just turned on a night light, which you can see from some of the shots from me using this last week. So I did mention that the sensitivity has something a bit special going on, because it's not just a case of high sensitivity and then whittle your way down to the lowest where you don't get much indication. Even if the line's stripping off, you're just getting a beep every 10-15 centimeters of line. It doesn't work on that basis. At the moment it's in its highest sensitivity, so barely any movement, I'm getting loads of indication. If I just, for demonstration purposes, whack that all the way down to its lowest sensitivity, this will now be a load of movement. I think on its lowest sensitivity, it can move from about 15 centimeters of line before you get a beep. The next setting up will be 10 centimeters of line, but it doesn't just stay completely 15 centimeters, then a beep. As you can see at the moment, if I was fishing somewhere with a load of weed pulling through, or I was fishing on a river or a canal with lots of big boats going through and I'm getting all this false indication normally, turn it down so I'm not getting any of that keeping me awake, but that can move loads without disturbing me. But as soon as it goes past a certain amount, which I think this is on 15 centimeters, I'll loosen off the clutch. There you are, it's now obviously giving me an indication, but rather than every 15 centimeters give me another beep, this has now gone into the same sensitivity as what it would be on its higher sensitivity mode. So it's got all that movement to do nothing. And as soon as you get an actual bite where it moves more than where you're getting that false indication, it flicks into its ultimate sensitivity mode. Once those LEDs stop flashing, it will revert back to the fact that it's in its lower sensitivity mode, and I can move it up and down as much as possible again. But as soon as that pulls past 15 centimeters, again, it goes into its ultimate sensitivity mode. So you shouldn't miss any bites when you finally get one after trying to avoid all of those false indications. So for little indication bites or really drastic bobbins up and down that you don't want to get constant beeps from, this IntelliSense mode will have you covered. Onto the receiver. Now these take exactly the same batteries as the alarm head. So when you go out and get your batteries for the alarm heads, make sure you get another one for the receiver. So same square 9-volt battery. Those are accessed by a little screw on the back of the plate, so it holds them in place when you don't want to change them, so there's no risk of losing that back plate. Once you unscrew that, you'll remove the back plate, and it's actually nice and weather sealed as well. So both the receiver and the alarms will take all weather it can throw at them. And proof is in that I used these last week and I had about 10 hours solid of rain. No issues. So don't worry, these aren't alarms that will start to dwindle in the rain. That's not going to be a problem. But the receiver is exactly the same in turning it on and off as the alarm heads. Press and hold after a quick press of the alarm, and then you've turned it on. To turn it off, exactly the same, quick press, then press and hold, and it's then off. To use the receiver is just as simple as setting up the alarm heads. You've got one dial, which is volume, and then two function buttons. So the first one being volume. At the moment, I've got it on mute. So if I pull the alarm head, which I've also got on mute, all it's doing is flashing the LED on the alarm head. So I can have that mute, this mute, don't need to let anyone know other than myself. There is also a vibrate mode on here, which I'll get onto in a second, but firstly, the volume. So it's on its lowest, and as you go through, it will straight away audibly tell you how loud it is, which, let me tell you, is very loud. So apologies to everyone else on the lake, which I think there's only one other person today, and they're the other end, but they've been hearing a lot of these random beats from me today. So I'll put that back down to its first setting, nice and quickly. There we go. So once you're changing the volume setting on here, you don't have to go over to your alarm and twiddle it to check what sort of volume level it is. It tells you straight away. So that's now on its lowest volume setting, which is still audible, and also shows the forward take and the drop back tone. So it's exactly the same as how the alarm heads work. You've then got two function buttons. Function button 1, if I press and hold, enters it into a vibrate mode, so I can have audio and vibrate. Or if I want to now put this onto mute, it's just going to be on vibrate. So you can have vibrate mode with no audio, vibrate mode with audio, audio no vibrate, it's completely up to you. The second function button 2, press and hold that, and that will be a memory function. That's telling me that the third alarm, which of course the one I've been doing all this demonstration purposes on, was the last one to flash. So it lets you know if you woke up and you've had a few beeps, didn't know which one it was, press and hold that and it will tell you exactly which alarm it was. And that's pretty much all you need to know. Of course, syncing things up, there's different modes you need to do with pressing and hold buttons, but these came already pre-synced for me. So straight out of the box, you're good to go. And finally, the prices. The 3+1 set I've been using today and last week coming at $349.99. But you can also pick up the heads individually at $94.99 or the receiver, which also comes in at $97.99. So for more information on these alarms, please do head over to the Trakker website. But that's everything from me for now. So cheers for watching, and I'll see you again soon.